Okay, lots of notes today, and not too long of an assignment, and you'll have time to practice some of this again tomorrow. You will have some work time tomorrow, not a lot today. This reads sine of theta. That's what that says. Theta is a Greek letter. I said this yesterday for TH. We put a T and H together. They just have the theta symbol. Sine comes from an Arabic word that means half chord. And it was mistranslated into Latin as sinus. So actually, when you read sine, it is referring to your nasal passage. They didn't mean for it to be that way. It just was mistakenly that way. I wrote a whole paper on it. You can read it if you want. But if we're talking about, remember, x, y, and r, which is what we talked about the other day, sine is y over r. So if you take the y value and divide by the r value, that's sine. You guys might remember sine as opposite over hypotenuse. Maybe remember SOHCAHTOA. I never learned SOHCAHTOA till I started helping other kids with math. In high school, I never knew SOHCAHTOA. It was never taught to me. All I remember is y over r for sine. And I think that it's better off that way. You think about these. Forget SOHCAHTOA. It only works for the right triangle stuff. We want to do a lot more with sine and cosine than just right triangle trig. That's boring. All right. Cosine. Cosine is x over r, or adjacent over hypotenuse. And I'll give you a graphic organizer with all this information later on after you pass this first test. Tangent is going to be y over x, or opposite over adjacent. And again, we're not worried about opposite or adjacent or hypotenuse today at all. We're just worried about y over r, x over r, and y over x. This is cosecant. A secant line is one that connects two parts of the circle or of a curve, and so kind of like a chord, like sine. It's the exact reciprocal of sine, so it would be r over y. Secant would be r over x, and cotangent would be x over y. Just because they're defined that way. They are ratios that exist. We can use those ratios in very interesting ways. Any questions? Going once, twice, thrice. Very good. Draw a picture and use special triangles to calculate the exact value of the following trigonometric functions. Sine of pi over 3. So if I want to know sine of pi over 3, I have to figure out y over r. We're going to draw a picture. Pi over 3, how many degrees is that? 60, right? Converted to degrees. So I know I'm working in the first quadrant. So I'm going to draw a picture in the first quadrant of a 60-degree angle. Okay. And I'm looking for that xy coordinate where it intersects a unit circle. I have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. What is the radius? Y. Why is it 1? Because we're in the unit circle. The radius is 1. What's the shortest side? Half. What's the other side? Square root of 3 over 2. Good. So hopefully you can do your 30, 60, 90 triangles by now. So my coordinate is 1/2 square root of 3 over 2. So what's the sine of pi over 3 going to be? It's the y value divided by the radius. Yep. Square root of 3 over 2 over 1, which is square root of 3 over 2. Very good. Extremely important that you construct that on your own. You cannot simply look at your chart and write down square root of 3 over 2. You have to construct the triangle and show me that. That'll be one of your first questions on your test. Are there any questions how I did that? Straightforward? Okay, now let's move to a negative one. Negative 5 pi over 3. What should I do first? What would you do? Okay, yeah, you would go the opposite direction. Let's think about in terms of degrees. 5 pi over 3 is... That's going to be, let's see, over 3, so that's 60s. It's going to be 5 60s, so 300. So this is the same thing as cosine of negative 300. Negative 300. What quadrant will that put you in? The first quadrant. How many degrees past the 90 will you be? 30 degrees past the 90. So you can see again, it's going to construct a 30, 60, 90, just like we had in the last one. Does anybody have questions how I came up with that drawing? It's the exact same as the last one. So what is that point going to be where it intersects the unit circle? Same thing, right? Now, cosine is going to be x over r. So what is the cosine value of negative 5 pi over 3 going to be? Yep, a half. Any questions how I got the drawing? I showed that video to my wife last night, the Kid Snippets math class, and she watched about 5 times. She just thought it was hilarious. So when I say, do you get it now, you can't just say, you can't say it. Nobody has any questions. Going once, twice, thrice, sold. Okay, tangent, 7 pi over 4. Convert 7 pi over 4 to degrees. Ooh, it's over 4, so it's 45. 7 times 45. 7 times 40 is 280. 7 times 5 is 35. 315, yep. You'll get used to those, 315. So that will put me right there. What kind of angle is left over? A 45-degree angle. Tell me, what is the R value? 1. What is the X value? Square root 2 over 2. What's the Y value? Y is a negative. Because you are in the 4th quadrant, you're going down. So that means that this coordinate is a positive square root of 2 over 2 and negative square root of 2 over 2. So that is my coordinate. Tangent is equal to y divided by x. If I take y and divide it by x, I get negative 1. Very good. You see now that tangent and cosine and sine can have positive values. They can also have negative values, right? Some people will remember it this way. I do not recommend this. All seniors take calculus. That means all of them are positive in the first, sine is positive in the second, tangent's positive in the third, cosine's positive in the fourth. I don't like it. Here's what I like. Okay, I always think of this, right? What I gave you. Sine is y over r. R is always positive, right? So let's think about it. Sine, y over r. Where is y positive? Above. So that's quadrants 1 and 2. Cosine, where is x positive? To the right, 1 and 4. Tangent, that's going to be positive where they're both positive or where they're both negative. Where x and y both positive. First quadrant, where are they both negative? 3. That's the way I think of it. You can do whatever you want. If you want to do all seniors take calc, that's fine. If you want to think of this, that's fine. That I never heard all seniors take calc until I started teaching here. Never heard it in my life. This is the way I think of it all the time. Okay, flip it over. Okay, the terminal point t is given. Find sine of t, cosine of t, and tangent of t. What is my x value? Negative 5 over 13. What's my x value? 12 over 13. What's your r value? Are you sure? Yeah, if you put this in, to the formula, you would get 169 over 169, which is 1. So the radius is 1. You could verify that. There will be a time where the radius will not be 1, where we'll work outside the unit circle. But right now, the radius is 1. So obviously, what is sine of t going to be? Sine of t? Y over r, which is 12 over 13. Cosine of t? X over r, which is negative 5 over 13. Tangent of t? (12 over 13 divided by negative 5 over 13). What do I do? Multiply by the reciprocal. The 13s cancel. You get negative 12 fifths. Any questions how I got that? Questions going once, twice, thrice. Okay. This one, sine of t, cosine of t, tangent of t. This will be the same thing. You'll do same type of property here. What's sine going to be? Negative square root of 5 over 3. Cosine? Negative 2 over 3. And tangent? Negative square root of 5 over 3 divided by negative 2 over 3. Multiply by the reciprocal. The negatives cancel, the 3's cancel, leaves you with square root of 5 over 2. I have my 3 values. Any questions? Okay. Last example, these two. Find the values of the 6 trigonometric functions given the following information. Well, let's see if we can actually get through this. Sine of t, cosine of t, tangent of t. We didn't celebrate somebody's birthday today. Won't be running out of time. Maybe if I went to told another story. Okay, first of all, I'd like you to decide if it's in the third quadrant, which ones are positive and which ones are negative. Third quadrant, sine, is it going to be positive or negative? Sine is y over r, so is y positive or negative in the third quadrant? Negative. Cosine is x over r, positive and negative in the third quadrant. Negative. Tangent is y over x. They're both negative, so that will divide and give you a positive. The reciprocal values will be the same in terms of positive or negative. And we know that sine of t is a negative 4 over 5. I have to determine the others. I will list x, y, and r. We're in the unit circle, so we know that our r value is 1, and we know that our x value, or I'm sorry, our y value is negative 4 over 5. Somebody tell me how will we find our x value? Formula, Pythagorean theorem. X squared plus y squared is equal to 1. We don't know x squared. What is y squared? 16 over 25 equals 1, which is 25 over 25. So x squared is 9 over 25. What should we do to both sides? Square root it. X is plus or minus 3/5. Is x going to be the positive 3/5 or the negative 3/5? Because we are working in the third quadrant, so it'll be negative 3/5. I go back over here and I list them. Cosine, negative 3/5. Tangent, 4/3. You're correct. If you divide those out, multiply by the reciprocal, you get 4/3. Now don't do any work for cosecant, secant, cotangent. Just take these values and do what with them? Just flip them. They're the reciprocal. So we got negative 5/4, negative 5/3, and 3/4. Any questions how we did that example? Okay, last one. We'll get through it. All right, this one. Cosecant is negative and cotangent is less than 0. What does it mean to be less than 0? Negative. So I'll line them up. Sine of t, cosine of t, tangent of t, cosecant t, secant of t, and cotangent of t. We know cosecant is negative, and therefore sine would be negative. We know cotangent is negative, and therefore tangent is negative. If sine is negative and tangent is negative, which quadrant am I working in? Tangent's positive in the third. Which quadrant is sine negative? Where's sine negative? Sine is y over r, so it's going to be negative below the x-axis, so in 3 and 4. Tangent is negative in the fourth, but positive in the third, so we're working in the fourth quadrant. So cosine is x over r. Is cosine going to be positive or negative in the fourth quadrant? Positive, so I know I'm going to have that. Cosecant's negative 2. If cosecant's negative 2, what sign? Negative 1/2. Let's list them off. X, Y, R. Y is negative 1/2. R is 1. How do I find the missing x value? Plug it in. X squared plus, what is y squared? 1/4 equals 1, which is 4 over 4. So x squared equals 3/4. What happens when you take square root of 3/4? Plus or minus square root of 3 over 2. Very good. Is it the positive or the negative? The positive, because we're working in the fourth quadrant. What's your cosine value? Square root of 3 over 2. You know, when you divide here, you end up with a little bit of an issue. You know, you get negative 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2, multiplied by the reciprocal, 2 over the square root of 3. That gives you negative 1 over the square root of 3. Multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 3. Negative square root of 3 over 3. What you'll end up with is this is 2 square roots of 3 over 3. And this one will just be negative square root of 3. So if you go through the process, that's how you find them. Here's your assignment, something for you to work on. You're going to have time to work tomorrow in class, trust me. There it is. Have a good day.